Hello, my name is Mustafa, and today I'll teach you an awesome arrangement of Radiohead's Creep on the ukulele. Alright, before we begin, I have my 4th string tuned to G3, which is an octave lower than your usual G. The way I do that is by attaching a guitar's 4th string, the D string, and I tune it up to G. Also, this is a generic lesson. To get the best out of this, practice it along this video and watch the tab video for my fingerings. And use a bit of independence. You'll learn much more if you can figure out what you don't know using the skills I'll show you. First, we'll learn the melody in different shapes. Then we'll add the chords, and then we'll add a finger picking patterns to make it more interesting and fill in those long rests. To know which note is a melody note, you have to look at the note notation and see which notes has the stems pointing up. The notes with the stems pointing down is usually a bass or chord note. So the first melody shape, as you notice, I start with my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret, 1st finger on the 2nd fret. Now I play the 3rd fret with my 3rd finger on purpose because the chord that comes next is the G chord. Second melody shape is the same strings with the same fingers. Third melody shape fourth melody shape fifth melody shape the next melody shape I play it differently in the video, but you can simplify it and play Now this one's a little bit difficult. I play the 2nd fret and I pull it off to open, and then I play the open and I hammer the 2nd fret. So I play the 2nd fret, pull off, play the open, hammer. And it's smoothest if you play the 2nd fret with the finger, like the index, and you play the open string with a different finger. Either use your index then middle, or middle then index. Practice the melodic shapes until you can play them from the beginning to the end without stopping and making them sound like the verse and the chorus. You can practice doing so along the video cover that I'm going to list in the video description. Once you can do that, it's time to add the chords. The first thing you want to do is you want to add the chord as a strum just after the melodic shape. So let's go through that. Now I'm not going to do the whole thing because the chords will repeat and you will get the idea after 3 or 4 examples. So the first one, followed by a G chord, and I'm playing it with my 1st finger on the 2nd fret, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret. Now this one's a little bit difficult, and what I did is I played. Now when I went to the 2nd fret, I did a partial bar. And that's 3rd finger on the 4th fret, 3rd fret, and the partial bar. In my opinion, the B chord will be the hardest for you. And that's just your C chord, open, 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 3rd finger on the 3rd fret. That's your C minor, open, 3, 3, 3, partial bar, a little bit easier than the B. Back to G. I think you get the idea. It's a fun exercise if you can actually play those melodic shapes that you have identified from step 1 using the stems pointing up, and see if you can identify which chords come next. I've helped you by putting the chord name on top of the bars in the actual tab in the tab video. Check it out. Step number 3 is to add the finger picking pattern to the chords so it sounds a little bit more interesting and not just... Now there's no right way of doing that. What I've done is I've just picked few random picking patterns that I thought sound nice, and I've just inserted them between the melodic shapes. I'll show you the patterns I've used in the tab using the G chord because it's the easiest. Pattern number 1 is simply... So that's thumb on the 4th string, index on the 2nd, middle on the 1st, index on the 2nd. Pattern number 2 is the same as pattern number 1, except I use these strings. Occasionally in the arrangement, I would do the following. So that's thumb on the 4th string and index on the 3rd string back to the thumb. And if you're wondering why I would pick this pattern over another pattern, the answer usually is in terms of texture. The instances where I prefer to use this, if I have actually chosen the other patterns, or then the higher chord notes would interfere with the melody notes and would make the arrangement ambiguous. So it's helpful for you to remember that when you're making your own arrangement. Sometimes you can get away by playing just the bass notes or the lower notes to make the melody stand out. And so on. This is a useful tip when you're making your own arrangements. Those 3 principles are key for you when you're learning your own arrangements. The first step is to play the melody. Second step is to figure out what chords go on top of the melody. And the third step is to either add a strumming pattern or a finger picking pattern. Sometimes you can get away with adding the 2 at the same time. So in my arrangement for the verse, I used finger picking, but for the chorus, I used strumming to separate the 2 sections and make them more clear or add interest. Thanks guys. If you want the video with a play along, click on this video. If you want more lessons, meet me first and subscribe. Until then, my name is Mustafa and this is MK Guitar. Until next time.